In this heart-centered conversation, Venus R. Evans, a Mi'kmaq and Maliseet leader in southeastern Kentucky, shares how quiet courage has guided her journey from standing firm in her Indigenous identity to leaving a long marriage and leading grassroots organizing. She reflects on her grandmother's influence, the matriarchal roots of Indigenous community health, and the intertwined legacies of trauma, healing, and courage, while highlighting the Auntie Network, which unites and uplifts Indigenous women across Kentucky. This inspiring exchange reminds us that public health is about community, culture, and visibility, and that courage often shows up as a steady, quiet presence at the table. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 26. To all the courageous women leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I am an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have real, unfiltered conversations with women doing the work of public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then let's dive into this brand new episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'd like to start by introducing myself if you're brand new to the podcast, or reintroducing myself if you're a returning listener. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock, and I am the CEO of the Courageous Public Health Consulting Firm, where we support public health organizations through workshop design and facilitation and speaking engagements. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest on this episode. Let me formally introduce her, and then we'll jump right into our conversation. Venus R. Evans is a proud tribal citizen of the Mi'kmaq Nation with ancestral roots in Presque, Maine, and the Atlantic provinces of Canada. Born and raised in London/Laurel County and currently residing in Corbin, Kentucky, she is a dedicated Indigenous advocate working to uplift Native voices and address systemic challenges facing Native communities in the Commonwealth. She serves as Commissioner at Large for the Kentucky Native American Heritage Commission and is Vice Chair of the Executive Committee of Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, where she formerly represented the Cumberland chapter on the steering committee. Venus is also a former secretary of the Governor's Interstate Indian Council and is the founder of the Auntie Network, a grassroots initiative focused on community care and cultural preservation. A frequent speaker on Native American issues, Venus has participated in numerous panels across Kentucky and the U.S., championing Indigenous rights, cultural education, and representation. Ready to be inspired? Let's listen to my conversation with Venus Evans right now. Hello, everybody. I am very excited to introduce my guest today, Venus Evans. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy that we are connected, and we have Attica Scott, the Honorable Attica Scott, to thank for, yes, snaps for Attica right off the bat. Big shout out. And you are also in Kentucky.
Yes, I am. I'm in Southeast Kentucky.
Fabulous. Okay. I love that. Kentucky is represented.
Yes. Yeah. And for so long we've not been,
Right. Right. No, this is great. So I want to start by giving you a chance to introduce yourself. Yeah, introduce yourself.
Perfect. Thank you. Gwe, Delawisi, Venus Evans, Nin Elnu Aqualestagui, Wedabexi, Maine Ach Canada, Walalio, Nin Weldasi. Hello, my name is Venus Evans. I am Mi'kmaq and Maliseet. My ancestral roots are in Maine and Canada. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Beautiful. So we talked ahead of time a little bit about you as an Indigenous woman. And I would love for you to share with our listeners what you told me about the shift from Indian to Native American to Indigenous in terms of our language. That was really interesting. I would love for our listeners to hear about that.
Great. I would love to. And I'm speaking from my lived experience, because everybody's lived experience is going to be totally different. But I'm 62. And growing up as a child, we called each other Indian because that was the word of the day. And then as time went on, and in the 70s, we kind of migrated to the term Native American. And now today, the term is Indigenous, and that encompasses everyone in North America, consisting of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Because before colonization, there were no borders, and we were all relatives. So that's why, the word Indigenous is being used more often today.
It's great. I really value thinking carefully about my words, and I think it's important for us to be thoughtful and intentional. And so, for me to be using the word Indigenous, it's like I need to know what that means and where that came from. So thank you so much.
Yes.
I did not know that. I didn't know that was why that
Well, thank you for asking, and I encourage you to ask everyone that is Native American, Indigenous, about their thoughts and feelings on that. Because, like I say, we all have a different take on it.
Well, I'll tell you something that's really funny, Venus. So, my husband is from India, and so every time, sometimes he'll hear people talk about someone being Indian, and it's really confusing for me because it's like, wait, like from India, Indian or Indigenous Indian, and so just that fact that this is the person that I married, really raised my awareness about how confusing the word Indian. I mean,
and it does. And in some spaces, and I think that's why that the term evolved into Indigenous or moved on to Indigenous is because in some spaces you'll have some folks say, well, I was born in America, so I'm Native American. And so it was kind of like, okay, go ahead and steal that one,
Yeah, really. Seriously.
Right.
But it is nice to have a term that is very clear. Yes. Great. Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we should jump right into the first question.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I am very interested in hearing about the times in your life when you have acted courageously, and thinking about, both you in your professional life, but also you in your personal life. And I know that those things are also, don't need to be separated. So it's like, I just want to hear about you and courage.
Well, that's a good question, because my courage has always been a quiet kind of courage. But, you still show up when you're tired, and you still show up when nobody's watching. And then sometimes, most of the time is courage is standing up whenever you're standing alone. But it seems like being Indigenous and living in a state where Indigenous is not looked upon as being something that's within the state. You have to have courage. Like I say, I'm older and growing up. I'm still proud of who I am, my ancestry, my people, my community. And in this area, if you couldn't say that you were Cherokee when you were growing up, because I never deviated from it. I'm Mi'kmaq and I'm Maliseet. And, that's who I am. And, people be like, you're lying. You're lying. So it took courage to stand up to that. And so it seems like courage has always been part of my life, even though it was hard for me to recognize that. But you and I were talking before the show started, and I was telling you about, I came out of a 30-year relationship / marriage. That took huge courage. And then to go back to school and then step into this work that I'm doing now, especially in grassroots with Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, where I served as steering committee representative, and then now I'm vice chair of the executive committee. Doing grassroots organizing, you're usually in spaces where organizing is not looked upon very favorably. So I think that is probably my biggest accomplishment there, as far as courage is concerned, is that was my hugest step. But it's there again, going back, I think that my whole life has had to be courage. And I feel like I got that courage from my grandmother, who came to Kentucky with my grandfather from Maine and Canada in the 1950s. And this is where she raised my mom and my aunt here in the Appalachian Mountains. And she was a survivor, even though surviving to her meant giving it all up, because once she married outside her band to a white man, she lost all of her rights and everything about being a First Nations woman. She lost all of that. So, but I said, if she hadn't been a survivor, I wouldn't be here. So I guess I feel like I got my courage from her. But yeah.
I love how often my guests have talked about the strength that they get from their mothers and their grandmothers, and even further back. I think that's really powerful, and like recognizing that courage can actually be transmitted through the generations.
Right. And I always like to tell this one as well. There's a study, I don't know where it's at, but where, a female is born with all of the eggs that she'll ever possess.
Right. Which is crazy.
And if you look at that, then I was in my mother's womb when she was in my grandmother's womb.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like that connection. And Indigenous communities, most, if not all Indigenous communities are matriarchal. So,
Right.
So.
And that, like honoring the ancestors, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And as I said earlier, growing up in this area, away from my tribal community, away from that cohesive community of Indigenous folks, and not having that, you feel lost and isolated. And when I started into this work, I learned a lot about how many Indigenous folks live within the Commonwealth of Kentucky who identify as Indigenous. And according to the 2020 census, there were over 91,000 Native Americans / Indigenous folks who self-identify as such. But we're all over the state, and there's 120 counties. So I thought, well, I'm not the only one. These other folks are mostly alone too, without their communities. because if you're with a federally recognized tribe or a state recognized tribe, you're from somewhere else, because Kentucky does not have that.
Got it.
And I was like, you know what? I need to start finding a way to bring us all together where we can have community, where we can be together, the fellowship, to share our stories, what we're going through. Because most of the times folks don't get to go back to their communities, but maybe once or twice a year. And then once again, getting into doing this work, I started making connections with other Indigenous women who are doing basically the same work. And I was like, okay, I'm building this portfolio and this address book, as if you will.
Like a Rolodex.
A Rolodex, there you go, of other Indigenous women that are doing the same thing. And I was like, I'm going to bring us all together. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to bring us together. And then it just came to me. It's like, start a Zoom call. So I had emails of folks and I started reaching out, and now we've got 20 women that are within this Zoom platform that we've gotten together, and we meet once a month and we talk and we encourage one another, and we just listen. If you need us to come there and be where you're at, you let us know. We will come help you get the word out, because Indigenous visibility is very important. And if we don't have that visibility, then we lack representation.
Yes.
So I felt like that was, and I'm not to sound conceited, a crowning moment of bringing Indigenous women together.
Oh my gosh. Own your crown. Wear your crown. Put on your crown.
Oh, yeah.
Crowning moment. Yes.
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 I felt really, really good about that.
That's fantastic. So. And, I wanted to also just mention that you are someone who does not identify as a public health professional, and yet you are totally doing the work of public health.
You and I discussed that, and I was like, when you reached out for me to come on and talk to you, I was like, I'm not in the public health field. I'm not a public health worker. What can I bring to the table? And then I got to looking, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm already doing that. All the Indigenous women that I know in Kentucky is already doing that. Yeah. And as an Indigenous woman, it's because I'm an Indigenous woman that I'm doing public health work. Public health.
Yeah.
So it goes hand in hand because we're matriarchal and we're public health infrastructure, because it's the women, the matriarchs, all of this holding it together, holding the community together, holding the family together, holding it all together. So we're all in there.
Yeah. And you're talking about, creating community, or not even creating community, but bringing community together. Right. And I love that. The Auntie Network, you got to show off your T-shirt for those.
I do.
Yeah, for the people who are watching this on YouTube. You've got this cool T-shirt, and that is really, I mean, I really think that is part of public health.
Yeah, and I was like,
it's equity, it's representation, it's.
Yeah, it's like,
it's all of those
things. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing, and it's hard for me to just use the word I, because it's more than just I or me. It's all of us. And it makes me uncomfortable to use that, because I'm just doing what everybody else is doing,
Yeah. But, you are one of the many. And so we get to also focus in on you.
Why, thank you. We were talking about the Post-it.
Yeah. Yes, let's do that.
This will be so funny if anybody in my family,
Your family
my ex-family hears about this. But anyway.
You had another example of courage that you wanted to share.
Yes, personal courage.
Yes.
To stand up to that, because like I was telling you, I came out of a 30-year relationship / marriage. And so we divorced in 2011, and in, I think it was 2013, he took me back to court to take away part of my maintenance money. If you want to know how someone really is, mess with money.
Yeah.
So he was taking me back to court to take my money. But 9 months after our divorce was final, he remarried. And one day, in the mail with my maintenance check, monthly check, I get this Post-it, and it says, check to see how much it will cost to get your name changed, and if I can afford it, I'll pay for it. And I'm like, here we were in this court battle, and I took a screenshot of the Post-it and sent it to my attorney, and I said, you tell him this is not negotiable, that I have been in Evans for more than I was my maiden name, and I will keep it. And I get asked now, well, why do you keep it? And I said, for spite. But no, the real reason is I have 2 children, 2 wonderful children. If anything came out of that marriage, was those children.
Yes.
And they were my life. I always say they saved me because, I was a teenage mother and from a dysfunctional family. And so I always credit them for saving me. And they go, Mom, don't say that. That's too much pressure. And I was like, no.
That is great. And you know what? You wanted to keep that name, and you were not going to change your name to make this man feel more comfortable. Or for his new wife to feel more comfortable.
Nobody was worried about my comfort.
That's right. And it's your name.
It's my name, and don't come at me and try to take it away from me, because that's my identity to my children.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, yeah, because, hey, bearing 2 children ain't easy.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I actually made the decision when I got married to keep obviously McClamrock is not my Indian husband's last name. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And I decided that I wanted to keep my maiden name because I had already established myself professionally. And it actually felt really important for me to keep that connection to my family before I got married.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, I really truly believe it's like people should get to choose, right? You choose how you want to be referred to, whether it's your name, whether it's your pronouns, whether it's, how our conversation about like the nation that you come from. It's like, I want to be called what resonates with me, like what is my identity. And so, so I love that.
And I love it when people are willing to learn that, willing to embrace it, accept it. And I mean, wouldn't the world be a better place if we could?
Oh my gosh. Ugh. Yeah.
Well, that's a story for another time.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
my goodness.
But it's so true. It's so true. So, okay. So, we've talked a lot about courage, which is great. And, courage, and I didn't, it's funny. I didn't give my definition in the beginning, like I usually do. That bravery is acting without fear, and courage is acting despite fear. And, like the fear often doesn't go away, and we have to fight through it anyway.
Absolutely.
But courage is also, to me, it's also about claiming and expressing your power. And that is so especially true when you're in spaces that don't always welcome you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really curious about how you express and embody your power, especially in those in those spaces?
Mm. Ooh, and I think I kind of touched on that just
Yeah.
slightly, that public health work isn't separate from being Indigenous, an Indigenous woman.
Yep.
In fact, it's because, living in Southeast Kentucky, deep in Appalachia, you see firsthand systemic neglect and generational trauma.
Yes.
I finally had one doctor sat with me. She sat with me and we discussed it, because anytime something comes up, I'm like, okay, could this be related to my Indigenous ancestry? Because in 2020, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. No one in my family has it. No one.
Okay.
And I said, is this anything to do with being Indigenous, Native American? And she looked at me and she said, dear, generational trauma is real. She said, that is passed down. And I mean, she was the first one that sat and talked with me and didn't dismiss it as, oh, no, that there's no data to support that. So, you have to be unapologetic when you go out and talk with folks, especially about that.
I love that you're talking about inherited trauma, intergenerational trauma. That's actually something, and I haven't really talked about this on the podcast yet, but I am in the process of writing a book. It's a memoir about intergenerational trauma in my family, looking at 5 different generations, from my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, myself, and my daughter. And so, this is actually a topic that's really very important to me. And yeah, I mean, it is really powerful when someone like a doctor acknowledges that to you, because we know that that's real. And you know what? There is data. There are data. There's lots of information about how trauma is passed down through generations. That's real.
It absolutely. And, I think folks get it confused, especially the older generation. They're like, oh, suck it up, carry on, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But that right there is something, generational trauma. Our ancestors, especially my grandmother, especially when she lost her right to identify as First Nations. And, that didn't get overturned until 1985.
Oh, wow.
Because up until that time, First Nations women who married outside their band could not go back to their communities. They were, that they lost that right. And my mother was finally able to be recognized as a First Nations woman. And then I think it was in 2017, they updated to where it would include my mother's children. So, I would be eligible for that. However, that means I have to travel to Canada to get this done. But this is something that I'm going to do. I will do. We'll take on that journey soon. But yeah, not having, especially someone in the health field, in medical field, not take you seriously and keep dismissing it. It's like, there's got to be something, I don't know. It's just something that is needs to be looked at seriously. And my doctor said that I'll name drop schools, that Vanderbilt did an extensive study on generational trauma. So and she was, I don't think she was a part of it, but she knew about it. I don't know.
She knew about it.
Specifically. Yeah. So she shared it, and I was like, and I sat and cried, Because I said, you're the first doctor to sit and talk with me seriously, took me seriously.
Yeah.
You know. So.
I think that's such an important component of the health of people of color. I mean, it's Indigenous, it's Black people who are, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep.
It's deep.
And it's triggering. It can trigger trauma responses that are, generational.
Yeah. You actually said at the very beginning, you said that your courage is often quiet. Yes. I like that you said that. And so when you show up at the tables where you're not always welcome, like you can bring quiet courage. And still take a seat at that damn table.
Take a seat. Yeah. Make seats available. When I get a chance to speak or present or whatever, I'm always saying, look around the room, see who's not at the table, and reach out and invite. And this is what I wanted to add is, there's 574 federally recognized tribes, tribal nations, and each with their own dialect, their own customs, their own everything. We're totally different.
Yeah.
And I thought sure I had my phone off. Hold on.
Oh, no worries.
So when folks see us in Kentucky and we identify as Native American, quickly we are judged, we're profiled because we don't look like the stereotypical that has been portrayed in history, in media, all of this.
Yeah. Yep.
So there you have to fight for that. And so, it being taken seriously is a traumatic thing as well. So it's a lot of things that we're having to deal with. And then speaking on getting back to my grandmother, when she lost all of her rights and what have you, folks in her community were trying to survive. So they didn't have a chance to unpack trauma, to unpack things that were going on within the community. They were just trying to survive.
Absolutely.
They were trying to live, not just, food-wise, but everything. that encompasses. Everything that encompasses.
I think it's easier. It's not easy, but I think sometimes older generations worry that talking about trauma as something that's passed down is a way of blaming. And that's not how I see it. I see it as an acknowledgement of the challenges that all the generations have faced, right? And because often, the trauma goes back a long way. And so, we all have things that we're dealing with. And so we do the best that we can. And we do also pass things down to our children.
Yeah.
And so, but I understand the worry of like, oh, are you trying to blame me for my actions or for my reactions and responses? And it's like, no, that's actually not what that's about.
No.
That's not what it's about. Yeah.
It's just acknowledging the trauma and letting us deal with that, giving us the space to share it, to talk about it, because we've not ever been able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like nobody wants to give you that space. So you got to create it.
Yeah, you got to take it.
Got to take it.
Take up that space. Love it. I love it. I love it. So Venus, I am excited. I'm excited to get to the portion of the interview where we get to talk about your vision for the future. And so thinking about, whether it's a vision for public health or it's a vision for your communities, for your the Auntie program that you've started, and also your personal vision. What's next for you?
Okay, yeah, that was a good one. Very good question. So strategies, just just all of that we've talked about. Keep leaning into elders and fellow organizers, cultural workers, other Native women that are doing this labor. I mean, keep showing up for that, showing up for community, showing up for other communities within your community. And if you show up and you support, they're going to show up and support you.
Right.
Especially, and this is speaking from once again living in a state where there is not a cohesive Indigenous community, and we're so far away from our folks. And this way, we come together and we can care for one another, uplift one another, elevate one another. I know with the Auntie Network, we came up with the acronym for Auntie: A for advocate, U for unite, N for nurture, T for teach, I for include, and E is for elevate. So we want to encompass all of those things to help one another, because it's really hard to take on national issues when you're struggling with state issues or community issues where you don't specifically, once again, have a seat at the table. So leaning into this work with my fellow matriarchs, because, like I've said before, Indigenous women is public health infrastructure. And we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep that strong bond within us together. And I'd like to see that public health move beyond clinics and charts. It should reflect our values, our communities, our cultures, our stories. Public health needs to be more, just as much about language revitalization and land return, just as much as it should be about diabetes prevention. As you know, diabetes is huge in the Indigenous community, and you got to address the small things to get to the large things just as well. Because if you can't get the small ones, you can't get the large ones either. And I'm talking about understanding. You can't have that understanding unless you're looking at all of it. So, just keep working with the aunties, working with the communities, showing up, supporting, and then personally, I just want to be able to have the health and the strength and the resources to keep doing what I'm doing. I've always said that I think I was born with this desire to help the Indigenous community, because it was always something I felt I had to do, I needed to do. And I know in our community, you don't speak before your elders. Your elders are supposed to speak first. However, my grandmother didn't get a chance to speak. And I always say that my voice is hers, and I'm speaking for her. So I'm doing what my mom and my aunt didn't have the courage or the strength to do. And I know that they wanted to, but, it was a little, times were different then. You just kind of stayed low key, kind of stayed out, especially, like I say, you don't have a big community. Nobody's going to have your back, so to speak. But that's changing.
So important.
That's changing. So
but they didn't have the opportunity, and you have an opportunity.
And I always feel like my job, for lack of a better term, is to hold the door open for those that are coming up behind me, because they're coming back. They're coming in stronger. They're more prepared. They're more tenacious. there are more. There's just more, and I love it. And I just want to keep encouraging that, because courage is not so much. Well, it is as much as we carry as what we pass on. So that's important to me. That the community keep growing, we keep helping one another, and be a formidable force, so to speak.
Well, as we talked about, we may pass on trauma, but we also pass on courage.
We pass on healing.
Pass on healing. Absolutely.
So that's beautiful. And that's beautiful to know, and it's encouraging to know. So.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much. So Venus, I want to make sure that our listeners know the best ways to connect with you. What is the best way? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X, which I don't do a lot of posting. I'm on TikTok. And I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So any of those platforms, you can contact me, or you are welcome to email me at venusevans1@gmail.com. Don't have anything yet hopefully to have a platform like a website or something for Auntie Network in the months coming.
Yeah.
Since we're in the early stages, but I would welcome any kind of conversation or information or anything like that. You're welcome to reach out. I will answer.
Okay, and we're going to put all of those links in the show notes for this episode, so it'll be easy for people to get in touch with you and learn more about you and your courage.
In our community, we do not have a word for a goodbye. We use namoltus. Namoltus. And that means see you soon.
Oh, I love it. Namoltus.
Namoltus. Yeah.
We'll see you soon. Sometimes courage is standing firm in who you are, even when others doubt your story. Sometimes courage is gathering your people, creating community where there wasn't one before. Sometimes courage is honoring the wisdom of your ancestors and passing their strength on to the next generation. Venus Evans reminds us that courage can be quiet yet powerful, rooted in community and in love for the people who come after us. You can connect with Venus on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn, or you can email her at venusevans1@gmail.com to learn more about her work and the Auntie Network. All the links to connect with her are on our show notes page for episode 26 on our website, courageouspublichealth.com. Before you return to your day, take a minute to sign up for the weekly Courageous Public Health podcast email updates so you never miss an episode. You can do that on our website, courageouspublichealth.com, because there is more great stuff to come. Thanks so much for being here. Until our next episode, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.